Okay, we're going to see how quickly I can do a wheel swap on this 83 Chevy Silverado. Before we get started, I want to show you the different things that I considered before I even looked at this, before I started this video. First of all, what is it that you need to do a wheel swap? Well, we're not only going to be doing a wheel swap, but we're going to do a wheel swap and we're going to put it back into the original package. So we're going to do that. Also, we looked at the size of the wheel. If you look right here, we've got multiple sizes of wheels. And so you have your standard Hot Wheels wheel right here, which is going to be right around 11 millimeters. So there you go, 11 millimeters. And we have this right here, though, is not a standard Hot Wheels wheel. This one right here is going to be right about 12.5 millimeters wide. And so I went in and found another wheel that should be almost identical to it, and sure enough, it's 12.5 millimeters. And I made sure that the width is the same as well, because if you look at the one that's the width is slightly larger, it's actually a slightly larger wheel as well, 12.62. So we've got some options to choose from when we replace this. So this right here, the top two wheels are standard, are really good for replacing standard Hot Wheels wheels, which once again, 11.21, so just slightly larger than a Hot Wheels wheel. Same thing with this. This is pretty much going to be almost exactly 11. So this should replace a Hot Wheels wheel perfectly. A normal Hot Wheels wheel for a normal car. But for these right here, like I said, we need about 12.45. So we've got an option. This right here, this wheel is also just about a normal 11 millimeter wheel. Just slightly right around there. So your option is, if you want to, you can actually take this rubber off and you can put a thicker rubber wheel on. So if you notice the difference between these two, which forgive my hands, I was working with some stain earlier today, staining some stuff. But so you can see that the one on the right is just slightly thicker. And so when you put it on, you can get a thick wheel, and you gotta sometimes get that extra rubber stuff off. But let's see here. Now we'll go from 11 to now it's 12. So we added a full millimeter to the wheel just by switching out the tire and putting a slightly larger tire on it, which can make a big difference. The other thing that you can do is these are for a staggered wheel. This is going to be 12.5 millimeters or slightly bigger than that, so 12.76. So these wheels that are on this truck right here are probably most often used in more of like a staggered, like the back wheel of a staggered car. And so you see that right here, 12.67. And so we're going to use this wheel right here, the big muscle wheel, which is really similar or pretty much identical to the one that is on the Super Treasure Hunt. So we're going to use these 4 wheels right here. They're already set. Okay, and I cut them off of the axle, and the reason why is because I'm going to use a no drill axle. So a no drill axle, these right here are no drill axles. And you can see sort of, it's hard to see, but there's a tiny little hole in there. Let's see here. And there's these tiny little pins that we're going to bend. We're going to bend these tiny little pins and we're going to put it into the end of the hole, and it's going to stay there and hold the wheel in. And so we're going to do that in just a minute. So I've got one axle with 2 pins, and then I've got a second axle with 2 pins. And then I'm going to have these 4 wheels right here. This right here is to put the car back into the container afterwards. And I'm going to just move everything else out of the way that we're not using. so that way it doesn't get in the way. And as far as fingernail polish remover, this is what I use. It's from Walmart. It's pure acetone. Don't get the scented stuff. But if you do this correctly, you can get through an entire wheel swap, take it out, put it back in, all in one fell swoop. And so that's what we're going to try to do right now. So I'm going to undo this. I've just got some paper towel, and I'm going to go ahead and start. The other thing that I have, I've got a pair of wire cutters, like these are cheap ones that I'm gonna use for the plastic. This right here, I'm gonna use for the metal. And this right here, I'm going to use, you don't really need them like this. They can be any kind of pliers to bend the tiny little pegs, but you don't want to use the cutters for that. So I got the fingernail polish remover on the cloth, and we're going to get started. So yeah, let's see how fast I can do this. So the only thing that we want to do is get the edges. We don't want to get the whole thing, because if you get the whole thing, it's going to get on the paint, and it will take away the decals, the tampos, if you will. And so that is enough. Just give it a second, it'll loosen. You can see the color getting darker. You don't want to rip it off of there, but let's see here. Slowly removing. Come on. Okay, and here we go. So we're going to put that right back there. We'll use this again in a second. And so we're going to cut this off. Turn it. Cut it again. And I'm going to cut it one more time. Which I love these little crafting cutters. They're by far one of the best for getting these wheels off. We're going to turn it again, and that should just about do it. Let's see if we need to cut it one more time. There we go. And let's see here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and cut the metal. And I'm going to cut the metal again, the metal pin. And I'll vacuum that up later. But we'll take the pins out, and the wheel will just slide right off. There we go. Come on. Okay. And as you can see with the micrometer, I'm going to measure it again, but it's 12.6 millimeters. And so we're going to take this right here, and these are small axles. The axle from the truck is about 22.5 millimeters. This is a 22 millimeter axle. And so I'm just going to slightly bend this pin, and I'm going to put the pin into the end of the axle. And I bent it just enough for it to stay in the end and not pop off. You can use super glue, but I don't like using super glue because it's messy and it messes up the wheels. And you'll notice I'm not bending it a whole ton, just bending it a little. You can see, I don't even know if you can see how much I'm bending it. But this one is a little different because you've got to put the wheels in first. And then put this axle in, and then we'll do the other side. Let's see here. There we go. And then I'm going to just shove this back in here. And then what I like to do, so that way I don't scratch the wheel, is I use a crocheting hook on one end. You can use anything that's round, something that's not going to damage it, and then I just poke the pin in from the other end. And now it'll stay in. And so we're going to do it again. Bend it just slightly. Put it into the axle. And then bend this one slightly so that way it can be ready. Okay, and then we're going to put the tire in again. And all that this is just a simple wheel swap. I'm not saying that I'm customizing a Hot Wheel necessarily. I mean, technically it is customizing a Hot Wheel, but I do full customs as well, and this is much simpler than that. But once again, you just check it, make sure. So once again, this wheel is just slightly larger than what was on it before, so it's not going to spin as well, which that's okay, because frankly, what we care about is the look right now, especially when you're putting real riders on it. The purpose of it is not necessarily to what's it called? The purpose of it is not necessarily to make it faster or anything to that effect. Which I just dropped one of the pins, so I've got to get a new pin instead of messing up. I think I know where it is, but it's underneath what the camera's resting on. So let's see here. And then there we go. Okay, and then I'm going to put one of my super cool stickers inside of it that says, hey, guess what? You found a custom treasure hunt. And put it right there. And then bada bing, bada boom. And now we're going to frankly, I'm probably going to put some acetone back on it again. And that will reactivate the adhesive. And when you let it dry, always let it dry with the car away from the acetone, so away from the card. So even though it's technically done, I don't want to flip it back over because the acetone will eat away at the car. So yeah, so there it is. It's technically done, and then I'm going to put another sticker right here because there's a lot of people who don't want to take it out of the package. Let's see here. Put the sticker right here. That way you know, hey, you got a custom treasure hunt. And I like to put them in backwards often, so that way you know, hey, right when you look at it, there's something different about this one. And so that's why you'll notice often, especially when I don't do a complete custom, I will put them in backwards if I can. So there you go. I'm not sure exactly how long that took, but that's how you do it.